Hello everyone, my name is Malcolm and today I'd like to show you physics simulation software that I've been developing called Fuji for my engine called GameKit. So it's pretty simple. On most of the screen here is the physics bodies themselves. Right now I've only got two rigid bodies here in my scene. You can see one of them, the smaller one here, is 50 kilograms or 50 units of mass, and this bigger one is 100 kilograms of mass. And both of them say 0, 0 here. That's their velocity. Of course, right now neither of them are moving, so they both have velocity of 0. Over on the right-hand side here, there's some controls. These three buttons here are toggle buttons, and you can use them to enable and disable gravity, a drag force, and collisions. And you can click them again to turn them off if you want, when they work. And then down here, I've got 4 different kind of tools or modes. So in this red mode, you can drag around the scene with the mouse. This one here, pointer mode, allows you to click on the rigid bodies in order to kind of select them or enable them. And then for all of the selected rigid bodies, we've got here this is the push force. So if I now start pressing down here, you can see that rigid body, or the rigid body starts to move. I can exert a force from this direction and kind of slow it down. And if I go to pull force and I start to press down, you can see now it's coming towards my mouse. It's going to come back here in a second. And so you can easily turn these on and off by clicking on them. It can be a little bit finicky at times. So I'm going to start actually with the drag force. I suppose maybe before when I start showing the drag force, let's first look at, again, what it looks like without drag force. So if I just go here, do pull mode, and I start to pull this rigid body towards my mouse, you can see even when I let go, I'm not touching the mouse anymore. It is just going to continue on that on the same velocity because there's no other forces acting against it. I'm going to start, wrong one. I'm going to start pulling it back here so it stays in our view. So yeah, it's just going to continue along. If I enable the drag force, you will see it will very quickly slow down as it's now in a medium that's exerting forces backwards on it in order to slow it down. So that's pretty nice. We can take a look here also at the collision, which is not really a force so much. It simply calculates the new velocity when objects collide. But let's grab our ball here and let's start bringing it towards our 100 kilogram ball. We will see that they will collide and start to move together. So let's try just taking one of these rigid bodies and dragging it around some more. So we can see as we drag the body around, it's moving, and it has some kind of drift to it. It doesn't immediately start moving towards my cursor as is expected. One of the things I really enjoy with looking at this is just the fact that a lot of the the physical properties and kind of rules that seem somewhat abstract, you start to just kind of see how they emerge. So like for me, the big one here was the property of I think it's the property of inertia, just the idea that an object with more mass will be more resistant to a change in velocity. And I mean, you can find that just by looking at F equals ma. If finding the acceleration is force divided by mass. If the mass is larger, then that means acceleration will be lesser. But so looking at how quickly this rigid body here of 50 kilograms is moving with this amount of force applied to it, I'm going to reset it here, and I'm going to turn it off and turn on the 100 kilogram ball, and then I'm going to start dragging it around with the same amount of force as the other one. And you'll see that it is kind of worse about changing direction or changing velocity due to that property of inertia and the F equals ma equation. Okay, so I want to show off my physics simulation's gravity force, or gravitational force as well. The thing is that gravitational force is really weak compared to other forces like drag force. So in order to really show it, I need to make some of the objects much more massive. So that's what I've done here. The 100 kilogram rigid body has been replaced with a 5 times 10 to the 14 kilogram rigid body. So it is way more massive than this 50 kilogram rigid body here, even though it's not a whole lot bigger. But we can see if I go here and I turn on gravity, let me actually switch over to push force, or maybe let's do pull force. So I'm going to switch gravity on like that, and you'll see the ball is now going to start moving towards our very massive ball. So I'm going to start kind of pulling it away a little bit. And it is quite easy for a ball to fall out of orbit or start heading away, but eventually it should more or less stick here. As a little bonus, I went and figured out or found the formula for determining turn off gravity and I'll set it there. So I figured out found the formula for a radial circular orbit, and so I've implemented that as well. So if let's enable gravity here, and actually I'm going to reset it again. So now it's going to be affected by gravity, and I believe if I hit this button, there we go. So now it is calculated for the radius it's currently at. It's going to follow at least more or less a circular orbit around this body here. I found it does seem to drift a bit over a large period of time. It's going to get further and further away, but for the most part, it does try to stick to a radial orbit. And all that pressing that key did was just apply an initial velocity to it. So I think that's pretty much it for my showcase of my physics engine. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll try and answer them. Thank you again.